Hey guys, Rob Murphy from Holistic Healing Choices here. So, as some of you might be aware, I've recently completed my acupressure course. Now during this time we learnt heaps of stuff, but one of the things that most intrigued me was about the constitutional elements. Now to start with, there was a bit of confusion around myself as to which element I was. Not even our instructor knew until we went through some of those traits and characteristics. So I turned out to be the metal type. Hence the white shirt, the colour of metal, and I quite happen to actually like metal music. So this is going to be the first in a series of videos. So you normally wouldn't start with metal, but I thought, hey, I know a fair bit about being this way, so why not start there? And so we're just going to take a look at all the elemental types, discuss and observe all their characteristics, and what makes up that constitutional element, where they fall out of balance, what they're good at, what gifts they have, and so on and so forth. Organs. Firstly, the organs. So for metal, it makes up lung and large intestine. So talking about the lung, now with the constitutional element, that's normally where you fall out of balance first. So with the lungs, people of metal constitution can normally be short of breath, can normally forget to breathe. Most of the time it's nothing serious. Even though I'm reasonably fit, there are times where I start some exercise and I'm just having trouble breathing. This makes a lot of sense as to why I do that. So you might find yourself in a similar situation if you're a metal constitution. Sometimes it can feel as though you lack inspiration in a metaphysical sense, which is part of the lungs. Inspiration. Next, the large intestine. Now, the large intestine, that can be constipation, or at the other extreme of it, diarrhea, or any issues at all around that area, like irritable bowel syndrome. Now, the large intestine is also about letting go. Think about it. It's letting go of waste and toxic stuff in your life. So if you're a hoarder, there's a good chance that you're part of the metal constitution, because you're holding on to stuff. Or if you're just so easy going, letting go of everything, nothing matters, money, relationships, what have you, there's a good chance that you're part of the metal constitution as well, or that you've got an imbalance with the large intestine. Emotion. Grief is the primary emotion for metal. So this normally means that this type of person will turn to grief first, or has a harder time moving on from it. Or in some cases, like all the other elements, there is a lack of this emotion. This one I can relate to, as during those goodbye moments where you might not see that person ever again or for some time, where the other person's right in front of me, they're tearing up as we're about to say our goodbyes, I feel nothing. Now, it's not to mean I'm an emotionless bastard case or anything like that, but it's like the gravity of the situation doesn't hit me right then and there. It's like, well, this other person's like, oh, goodbye, it means something to them. They're grieving that I'm no longer going to be part of their life or whatever it is. I can easily just say, see ya, and be done with it. It's something I've never understood until finding out I'm part of the metal constitution. And it's just part of who I am. It doesn't mean I have to like it. Sound. The primary sound for metal is weeping, being from grief. In their voice, it feels as though they can just trail off. It just ends suddenly. Or there can be a croak or a crack in their voice, as though they're about to burst into tears. Now, I know, especially if I've had, a hard night, my voice gets croaky and cracky and pretty terrible. Even when I'm trying to talk in a bit of a lower volume, there's a noticeable croak or crack there. Odour. The odour for metal is rotten. Now, while this sounds bad, it's when this metal person is out of balance that it's really, really present. It smells like rotting meat, like their sweat, their perspiration, or just their general body odour when they're really out of balance. When they're in balance, it can smell more like a cluster of leaves in autumn time, or, the smell of freshly cut grass and stuff like that. Scents. The sense that belongs to metal is a sense of smell. And as I say, the metal element is the most close to our animal nature. So that smell, that instinct to tell you that something's wrong plays a much larger role. Much like animals use their nose to determine different types of information. You know, toxic smells or the smell of prey or what have you. Okay. So now we move into personality traits. Now, the metal person is very deep. A lot deeper than they appear on the surface. You know, just like all metals and stuff that are buried deep underground. They can be very hard to get information or anything out of. Now, if I'm talking those short, sharp sentences, they're not necessarily secretive people, but you need to ask the right question to get the information you want out of them. Because they'll just say, oh, you know, how's your day? Good. Whereas other elements will, you know, say, oh, good, this happened, this happened, this happened. These people are the thinkers. There's always something going on inside their head. And this can make them seem a little bit aloof at times, as when they're thinking there's not room for much else. These people love and need space. They might even pull away from you if you seem to be invading their space. So I know for myself, for instance, if somebody unexpectedly rushes up to me, I'm going to pull back. Or if someone's in, you know, my area, my workspace or something like that, that when I'm trying to, especially thinking about something, it rattles me a little bit. Another thing is when talking to these people, if they already know what you're going to say or where your story is going to end up, they can zone out, especially if there's something else happening over yonder that catches their attention. They will drift back into the conversation, but it can be like you're talking to a bit of a brick wall as they're thinking about something else over there. This is the part I hate about being this way, because it can seem rude, arrogant, snobbish, all those sort of things. And I mean, that's even worse when that person is out of balance. People can also be put off by the metal type, as they can either be the perfectionist or ordered. When things get out of hand, and when they're out of balance, they can start to judge, become critical of both themselves, being that they're not good enough, or they should have a plan for this, and others, as if nothing is good enough. Or they can be the overly perfectionist type, where everything has to be perfect. Metal people are also people who have integrity and they like to live by principle. This can lead to them becoming a bit self-righteous, so thinking they're a little bit above others because they live to a higher moral code, so to speak. Or if they mess up, say, take drugs when that's one of their values, they will punish themselves for it and they can get quite almost depressive around it. And grieve because they feel that they've failed themselves. Gifts of the metal type. Acceptance. We accept things for the way they are. Not that we agree with everything, but we just accept it for what it is. Non-attachment. This is once again about letting go. Here we see metal people can be less attached to things. The more we're attached to things in our life, the more we desire them. So if we're attached to the idea of money, then we go after money until we're ruled by it. Metal people can let things go. As I was saying before, especially if there's a lack of grief as well, we don't mourn the loss of anything, so it's easy to say goodbye and become less attached to things. Acknowledgement. When a metal person is in balance, they're able to acknowledge the qualities of others, as well as receive acknowledgement. Now, it's that non-attachment to ego and stuff there as well, so I can notice that someone is a fantastic massage therapist. Even though I'm a massage therapist myself, I know that person does that particular style of massage or that particular technique very well, and I can acknowledge it. As well as knowing still that I'm a good massage therapist as well. Value. When in balance, the metal person knows their value. Just like with the acknowledgement, I know I'm a good massage therapist, so I can accept that acknowledgement from other people, and they know the worth in themselves. But it's not in an egotistical way, it's just acceptance, as we talked about. Acceptance for what is. Balance. Metal people have a great ability to balance themselves, obviously when in balance. So this can be between body and spirit, logical and creative, being grounded and being spiritual. So like I said, they can be the creative part. They can have that logic in there as well, where they're good with numbers and stuff like that, but they can paint anything. They can put their hand to anything and be good in one way or the other and both at the same time. And especially when we get into the realm of all this new age sort of therapy stuff, we look at being grounded. So myself, for instance, I look at the chakras, but I look at the logic behind them as well, where you see a lot of other types, especially the fire, they can just go one way. So they'll go off with the fairies, so to speak, if that's what you believe in, but they start to lose their grounding as they get further and further into that belief. And so that wraps up this video, guys. Do you know a metal person? Are you a metal person? Has this video given you some insight into yourself? Is there anything else you'd like to know about the metal person? If so, I highly recommend John Kirkwood's acupressure courses. They are phenomenal. You learn so much healing, so much just being able to help, and just so much general knowledge. But anyway guys, that's it for this video. If you liked it, share it, comment, subscribe. But anyway, I'm Robert Murphy, and I'll see you in the next video.